Okay, good afternoon. I'm Heather Strandberg. I'm with the Patent and Exclusivity team in the Office of Generic Drug Policy, and I'm here to discuss some how applicants should address certain patent and exclusivity requirements and provide some helpful reminders. So today's presentation will review regulatory requirements related to the most common patent and exclusivity deficiencies, including addressing later listed patents, patent information, and new exclusivities, adequate documentation of notice of paragraph 4 certification, notification of the filing of legal action, court orders, and licensing agreements, and pediatric exclusivities. I'll discuss timely notification of commercial marketing and review the agency's P4 certifications list and competitive generic therapy approvals list. So one of the most common issues that we encounter is failure to address later listed patents and patent information, which includes use codes. An applicant must address all new timely filed later listed patents and patent information with a patent certification or a Section 8 statement. Patent and patent information, including a use code, is considered later listed if it is submitted for listing in the Orange Book after the ANDA has been received but before it has been approved. For later listed patent or use code to be considered timely filed, it must be submitted for listing within 30 days of patent issuance or within 30 days of approval of a corresponding change to the NDA's product labeling. If that timing requirement is met, the patent or use code is considered timely and an ANDA applicant must address it. If you believe a newly listed patent or use code is untimely, meaning it was submitted for listing outside of that 30-day timeframe, please submit a justification setting forth the basis for why it should be considered untimely. So all of that is to say that all new and updated timely filed patent listings require new certifications and statements. So that also means that a prior P4 certification to a patent does not sufficiently address a newly listed use code that is listed for the same patent. Sometimes we see applicants that try to rely on try to address a later listed use code with by relying on the P4 certification provided to the patent before the use code was listed, instead of providing a new P4 certification to the use code. But a previous P4 certification to a patent could not have covered the new use code because the use code was listed after that P4 certification was provided. And it's important to note that litigation with respect to P4 certification to later listed patents and patent information does not incur a stay of approval. If an applicant elects to submit a P4 certification to a timely filed later listed patent or use code, the applicant must also comply with the notice requirements under 21 CFR 31495. This includes sending notice at the same time as submission of the P4 certification and providing adequate documentation of notice. Prior notice sent for P4 certification to a patent is not sufficient notice for P4 certification to a new use code for the same patent, because that use code was not listed when the original notice was sent. This is true regardless of litigation status or outcome with respect to that patent. Applicants must also update their exclusivity statement when a new exclusivity is recognized for the relied upon listed drug. The statement should clearly state the applicant's intent and indicate whether the applicant is not seeking approval of its ANDA prior to exclusivity expiration and is retaining the exclusivity protected information in its proposed labeling, or the applicant is seeking approval of its ANDA prior to expiration of the exclusivity and is omitting or carving out the exclusivity protected information from its label. Documentation of timely sending and receipt of notice is required for P4 certification to all patents and patent information listed at the time of and after submission of an ANDA. Adequate documentation of notice includes documentation of the date that the notice was sent and received. FDA will accept as adequate documentation of the date the notice was sent a copy of the registered mail receipt, certified mail receipt, or a receipt from a designated delivery service. And we will accept as adequate documentation of the date of receipt of notice, a return receipt, signature proof of delivery by a designated delivery service, or a letter acknowledging receipt by the person provided the notice. Applicants can only rely on another form of documentation if FDA has agreed to such documentation in advance. So these are a couple of examples of return receipts issued by various designated delivery services which serve as proof of delivery. So whatever service is used, the return receipt must contain the necessary details to verify delivery. The delivery receipt should include the delivery date and the location of the delivery and signature proof of delivery. Signature proof of delivery is required to ensure that the package was delivered to its intended recipient. The delivery receipt must clearly document the name or identity of the individual that received and signed for the package. An inadequate signature proof of delivery is a common deficiency. So this is an example of a delivery receipt from a designated delivery service that does not comply with 31495E. So first, the signature or the signed for by field states signature release on file, rather than providing the identity or name of a person that signed for the delivery. And then this receipt also states that a signature was not required at the very bottom, which you may or may not be able to see. And signature proof of delivery is always required as stated in the regulations. So first challenge question. An applicant provided a P4 certification to the 123 method of use patent and the associated U456 use code in its original submission. A new timely filed use code, U789, is subsequently listed for the patent. True or false, the applicant must address the later listed U789 use code with a patent certification or a Section 8 statement. If you thought true, that's correct. An applicant must address all new, timely filed, later listed patents and patent information, including use codes, with a patent certification or a Section 8 statement. And if the applicant elects to address the use code with a P4 certification, they must comply with the notice requirements under 31495, which includes providing documentation that notice was sent and received. So moving on to notification of filing of legal action. Applicants must notify FDA within 14 days of the filing of any legal action that is filed within 45 days of receipt of notice of P4 certification to patents and patent information that were listed at the time of ANDA submission. So that means that the requirement does not apply to later listed patents and patent information, and that's because litigation does not incur a 30-month stay. Applicants should ensure that notification includes a statement that an action for patent infringement identified by a court, the case number, and the patent numbers of the patents at issue has been filed in an appropriate court on a specified date. A common issue that we see is the submission of a dummy case number. So instead of the actual civil action number from the complaint, so please always provide the correct civil action number from the original complaint. And submission of a complete copy of the first civil action complaint with civil action number is an easy way to meet all of the requirements. And even if you later provide a dismissal or another order that contains the civil action number, we still need the original complaint's civil action number to match and properly track the case. And if no legal action for patent infringement has been filed after the noted 45-day period, applicants should submit an amendment to notify FDA after that 45-day period has ended. So applicants must also notify FDA within 14 days of the entry of all final court orders or judgments. The regulation also states that applicants that have been granted a licensing agreement must submit a statement that they have been granted a license to market the ANDA product prior to expiration of the patents in suit. And this is particularly important for applicants that have an order that suggests or indicates patent infringement. Applicants will often tell us that they've entered into a settlement agreement, but then they fail to comply with the regulation by also stating that they have a licensing agreement for those patents. So please include this information because those two terms are not interchangeable. So that brings me to pediatric exclusivity. Pediatric exclusivity is a 6-month extension of the period during which the approval of an ANDA may not be made effective. The period is added to the end of certain listed patents and exclusivities, but there's an important difference between the two. Period is considered an extension of the exclusivity, so applicants that have chosen to carve out information protected by the exclusivity may do so for the duration of the exclusivity and the 6-month pediatric exclusivity period. Conversely, the pediatric exclusivity period is not an extension of the patent. So therefore, it is not permissible to submit a Section 8 statement to carve out the 6-month pediatric exclusivity. So when an applicant has provided a Section 8 statement to a patent that also has a pediatric exclusivity period attached, upon expiration of the patent, the Section 8 statement is deemed to be a Paragraph 2 certification. The Section 8 statement does not extend to the pediatric exclusivity period. So once the patent has expired, there is no longer a legal basis to omit information protected by the patent from the ANDA's proposed labeling, and the information must be added back. And lastly, when a pediatric exclusivity is added to a patent after submission of your ANDA, you do not need to submit a new certification or statement to address that exclusivity. Challenge question 2. An applicant provided a Section 8 statement to the 123 method of use patent and associated U456 use code and submitted labeling to omit the protected information. The patent expired on April 1st, 2026, and has an attaching pediatric exclusivity period that expires on October 1st, 2026. Which of the following is not true following expiration of the patent on April 1st? A, the Section 8 statement is deemed to be a P2 certification. B, the applicant can maintain its labeling carve-out of the information covered by the expired patent and use code. Or C, the applicant must revise its labeling to add back the information covered by the expired patent and use code. If you thought B, that is correct. Upon expiration of the 123 patent, the Section 8 statement is deemed to be a Paragraph 2 certification. The Section 8 statement does not extend to the pediatric exclusivity period, so once the patent has expired, there's no legal basis to omit information protected by the patent from the ANDA's labeling, and the applicant must submit the labeling to add back the information that was covered by the expired patent and use code. So now I just want to provide a few reminders about the timing of notification of commercial marketing. 180-day exclusivity may be awarded under 2 statutory frameworks: patent challenge or PC exclusivity and competitive generic therapy or CGT exclusivity. The requirements and recommendations for commercial marketing are different for each of them. With respect to 180-day PC exclusivity, a first applicant, as defined by the statute, must provide FDA with notice within 30 days of commercial marketing, which includes marketing of an authorized generic. And for notification received outside of 30 days, the date of first commercial marketing will be deemed to be the date of the drug product's approval. Oops. With respect to CGT exclusivity, the first approved applicant, as defined by the statute, for a drug designated as a competitive generic therapy is eligible for 180-day CGT exclusivity. The first approved applicant's commercial marketing determines whether and when the 180-day CGT exclusivity period begins, and whether that first approved applicant has forfeited its eligibility for exclusivity. Marketing must commence within 70 days of the approval date, and if not, the exclusivity is forfeited. And until we get this notification, we will continue to approve ANDAs because CGT exclusivity does not block approval of other ANDAs until marketing has commenced. So because the orderly operation of CGT exclusivity requires that FDA know when a first approved applicant commences commercial marketing, FDA recommends that first approved applicants let FDA know on the same day that they commence commercial marketing by sending an email to the PET email box and by also sending a correspondence to the ANDA file. And finally, I just want to remind you of a couple of FDA's public resources. First is the Paragraph 4 certifications list, where FDA regularly publishes information relevant to 180-day patent challenge exclusivity. And generally, this list describes drug products for which one or more substantially complete ANDAs containing a P4 certification have been submitted to FDA. The list is updated bi-weekly and as needed. And then the next one is the CGT approvals list. This is a public list of all approved ANDAs for drug products that received a competitive generic therapy designation, and also notes which ANDAs cover drug products that were also eligible for CGT exclusivity, whether CGT exclusivity was forfeited, and the date of commercial marketing of ANDAs with CGT exclusivity. And this list is also updated bi-weekly. So that brings me to the end of this presentation. It's very important for applicants to adequately address patent and exclusivity requirements to avoid delays during the review of their ANDA. And that includes addressing all new timely filed later listed patents and use codes, and complying with the notice requirements for P4 certifications, updating exclusivity statements to address new marketing exclusivities, providing timely notification of filing of legal action and outcome of litigation, submitting a statement in compliance with the regulations if granted a licensing agreement, and awareness that pediatric exclusivity is not an extension of a patent and cannot be carved out. You're reminded to notify FDA of commercial marketing of exclusivity eligible ANDAs and to take advantage of the information that FDA publishes on the P4 certifications list and the CGT approvals list. And I will hand it off now to Trung.